Okay, so welcome everybody. This is the special meeting of the Village Board of Trustees having to do with the Facilities Committee. It's March 22nd, 2022. We have Sean Foran from Huber Brewer here to give us a presentation. Do you want to say what we're doing? Or
sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So, yep.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sean Foran, Vice President with Huber Brewer. Some of you we met 2 weeks ago in this presentation. Also with me tonight, the magic behind the curtain is Annette showing. Annette is a project manager. You can't see her, but trust me, she's there. Also with me, you want to introduce yourself, Dennis?
Dennis Ross, Director of the Market of Emergency Services for H2M Architects and Engineers.
So tonight, 2 weeks ago, we met as a group. We're meeting again tonight. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to continue to receive input from the residents of the Village of Scotia as it relates to the two properties that have been selected as potential viable options for a new fire station. A little bit different than last time. I'm going to ask if you could please hold your questions or comments until I get through the presentation. And the reason we want to do that is there's a limit to how much video we can put online. But this presentation, and not just the slides, correct me if I'm wrong, will go on the village website. So please let me get through the original presentation, because that will be what's on the website that everybody can see tomorrow. And then whatever time is left on the video for questions and answers will be dealt with. So back 2 years ago, I worked on this project briefly. I can tell you there are 3 banker boxes in the mayor's office that go back to 1991. And then we found last night, we were looking at them. There are memos from the police department from 1966 talking about the need for better facilities. So tonight, again, we're looking for community input, a survey to determine what the village residents believe is the best location of the 2 that have been put forward by the village. Go ahead, Matt. Let's maybe. So real quick, we copyright all of our material. This is, if you want to use this for any purpose other than, and I know some people have posted stuff on Facebook. I don't have a problem with you taking a photo and putting it on Facebook. I'm good with that. It's when you start to manipulate the documents or change them or make comments to them in the public arena that we take offense to that. So everything in this PowerPoint is copyrighted. If you're looking to do something along those lines, please contact the village first. Go ahead. And then this is just here so that if anybody comes and looks at this presentation a week from now, they're like, what am I looking at? They know that this is a copy of the presentation that was done tonight here for the project. So 2 seconds or 2 minutes about Huber Brewer. We've been in business since 1880. We're family owned, currently run by a 6th generation. We have everything in-house to develop and construct and manage commercial projects. Everything from $1 million Rite Aid to $200 million projects. We're currently doing the Nexus Center in Utica, if you're familiar with that. We built the Expo Center at the State Fairgrounds a couple years ago. We built the amphitheater in Syracuse a couple years ago. We believe very strongly that the important decisions are the early decisions. We try to bring our experience to municipalities and fire districts to help them make good decisions in the beginning as it relates to their projects. Go ahead. Projects that we have completed locally that you may be familiar with: Charlton, Burnt Hills 2, Rotterdam 7, Glenville 2, Jonesville 2. These are 5 stations that Annette and I have completed. Going back, the early one would be Glenville. That was probably 5 years ago. So those have all been done in the last 5 to 7 years. We've done stations as far north as Lake Placid. We've done work in Maryland. We've done quite a bit in Syracuse. So I started the Division of Fire Protection in 2006, something like that. So this is not an eye focus specifically and solely on fire station owner representation. But that's
So H2M has only been in business for 87 years, but we also have everything in-house, architecture, engineering, environmental, pretty much anything we need to do any kind of project. Much like Huber Brewer, we have done things as small as kitchen renovations all the way up to New York City high rises for hundreds of millions of dollars. My particular division, which I head, has probably over the years worked on over 450 fire stations all over the nation and in Canada. So we understand the needs, and we've worked with Huber Brewer on what, 4 or 5 stations at least. So we work very well as a team.
sure. Go ahead. So how do we get here? So 2 years ago, we did a process, an assessment of the needs, and COVID hit. We were actually fairly close, ready to go to referendum. COVID hit, there was going to be no voting. It stopped the process. During that 2-year period since then, the village board had put together a committee of citizens to review a series of sites for potential use as a fire station location. They reviewed 22 sites total. 12 of them were further developed. And of those 12, these 2 sites that we're sharing with you tonight are the 2 sites that have been deemed the most viable by H2M, the Village of Scotia, and Huber Brewer. H2M has prepared schematics. That's okay, but you're good though. Again, we're seeking input as to which of these 2 are neither. We took a survey at the end of the last meeting, but there were only 30 people here, 40 people here, something like that, like the Easter Sunday crowd we have today. But after that, the village was able to put up a survey on the website. So anybody that had gone to the village website could enter there, and we're going to show you those results. The other thing is we provided, and we'll share with you again tonight, we provided an email address. If somebody had questions, they could write an email to this Yahoo account, and they were answered by the committee. So we are trying to bring as much community input into the process as we can. Fire department current deficiencies. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this. I think they're all fairly well known and fairly well agreed upon. The fire-based slab is not adequate for holding the weight of the new equipment. When it was built for horses and wagons, not apparatus that are north of 40 ton. The fire-based space is a serious safety concern. Unfortunately, today, there are too many firefighters getting injured in their own fire station. They are being pinched and or run over. It's not a good thing, obviously, when it happens. The proximity of the trucks next to each other, right now, those trucks are 6-8 inches off the walls down there. And people say, well, we're going to break the mirrors. I don't think anybody care about a broken mirror, okay? But trying to get people in and out of the fire base safely is the main concern. Thank you very much. I know I'm going to need it. It's not, obviously, it's not ADA compliant, and there's several support areas that are deficient. So that's the fire department. Go ahead next. Here's some photos. So just so you know, we didn't stage this. We didn't move the truck closer to the wall. We didn't. This is the way they're parked all day, every day. Go ahead. Some area downstairs. I don't go downstairs, but this area downstairs is not accessible. I don't think it should be used for public use with knowing what's on top of it. My personal opinion. You can see more. They've got stuff stashed everywhere, basically. Here, go ahead. Police and municipal, for number one, not ADA compliant. We're all here. I know somebody's heard about people getting arraigned down in the Stewart's parking lot sometimes, or people that can't make it up the stairs. Also have a serious concern for officer safety and how they deal with people who are not behaving well at the time and how they handle them. Also, there are all kinds, and I am not a police expert, but there are all kinds of standards, I'm gonna call them, that are in place for how police are supposed to handle juveniles. They are not supposed to be mixed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief. They're not supposed to be mixed with the over 21 person not behaving well. All kinds of separation and how you deal with it. Well, you're not built to handle that in any way, shape, or form as well. The list for police deficiencies goes on and on and on. So, go ahead. Sorry, I forgot where you were. Some photos, and then the village clerk's office. This is the village clerk's office. That is their public bathroom there on the top right. Obviously, again, ADA issues, lack of space. Whenever this was built, a long time ago. This is 5 police areas. You can see locker rooms and detainment areas, I'll call them, are a little bit antiquated and outdated. Next. Utilizing the existing structure, it's important to understand. Sorry, give me 1 second, please. This structure cannot be renovated to be used as a fire station. A, it's too small, but even B, if we were to try and do structural repairs to this building, we would have to do more than 35%, which would mean the entire structure would have to be brought up to an essential facility code, and it's impossible to do in this building. So structurally rehabilitating this building for a fire station is not possible. Can it be structurally rehabilitated to take municipal court and village office? Yes, it can, and police. Believe it or not, a police station does not, correct me if I'm wrong, a police station does not fall into the same essential facility category that a fire station does.
In terms of structure only.
Right, okay. So that's a summary of that. Go ahead now. So there are 2 sites that we are looking for survey or information or feedback on. The first site is the Municipal Lab, right there. This is a rendering of a 2-story fire station that could be located on that site. That's what it would look like in schematic format from the road. If you look at it in site plan, this is where we are tonight. We're in the municipal building. We have the paint store. This would be the building that you're looking at now. There's a blue box that's over the top of it, so you don't get confused. There's not 2 buildings there. This is the 2nd floor that would be over the top of the 1st floor. It has parking on John Street, access out onto Mohawk Ave. Go ahead and that. This shows, so one of the concerns, rightfully so, is parking. So obviously it would be eliminating some public parking spots. We will be able to create some spots in front of the existing station now where the fire department exits. So we will be picking up some street parking here and here, and we have parking back here. There is going to be a loss of a few public parking spaces, though, no doubt. All right, go ahead, Matt. People asked last time about the program. It's 16,000 square feet. Back when H2M did the program, it was actually 15,887 square feet. I took that program, which lists every room, and I broke it down into what was its purpose. So of the 16,000 square feet, 8,700 square feet is what we call firematic. It's fire bays and fire support area. Tool room, decon room, pier wash room, SCBA room, and then that's the bulk of it, the 8,700 square feet. Administrative, there's 3,800 square feet of administrative space, okay? Circulation restroom mechanical, 3,300 square feet. It sounds like a lot. This is where people, and I don't know the details of the shift, but they live, eat, and sleep here, okay? So they bathe here, like we do at home. They need a place to shower. So when we're dealing with career staff and career fire stations, the locker room / restroom / shower areas are fairly extensive. And then circulation restroom mechanical, 3,300. So that is a breakdown of the 16,000 square feet. I would like everyone to please understand, we are at a very, very, very early schematic phase. We have not spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this team to develop floor plans and develop options. We are looking to get to referendum with a program that we know will satisfy the needs of the departments. My number one job is to save money for the owner. That's how I get rehired. That's how owners talk to other owners and say, the Cuba Brewer did a good job for us because they saved us money. That's really what most municipalities care about, is the money. So if I can make 15,887, 14,000 through design development, I'm going to, because I know this is $450 a square foot, $500 a square foot. And every square foot means something, okay? I want to make that 15.8 as small as I can, because the better job I do with the program, with his help, the better off the project's gonna be financially. This is our magnitude of cost, 16,000 square feet. We have design fees, we have construction costs in at $8 million. You have legal and miscellaneous bond costs. You have a design contingency and you have a construction contingency. All in, this 16,000 square foot facility is budgeted at $10 million, $9,900,000. Call it what it is. It's $10 million. Okay, that is what we.
We've lost sound.
No sound here.
There's no sound and there's no option to type in a chat to let anyone know.
Also, the screen was shared with presenter mode. We saw both slides. It was hard to see every slide.
How convenient that we lost sound.
Yeah, can't hear a thing.
The last I heard was $10 million.
What on earth? I can hear faint audio in the back, but I don't know if that's somebody on here.
Oh,
Or
that,
the meeting
that,
room.
yeah, that
Microphone.
might be me.
Oh, okay. I tried the raise hand option, like to see if that would garner any sort of reaction.
I did too. It went unnoticed.
That does not surprise me.
I've been using the a no sound emoji, and no one's responded either.
Oh, there's no sound emoji? Where's that? Let's see.
I'm on mobile, so I have a list of like 35 different
Oh.
categories of emojis.
It does let us do that, so I wonder if there's a way.
I have a friend right now in the meeting. I'm trying to text
Oh, okay.
to let them know that we.
Thank you.
I could send a broccoli. That's not going to help. No. I wish there was a way to search in these. Meeting settings.
So, and I'll be honest with you.
Oh,
the
there we go.
resident-
Yay.
Oh, hello. Okay, so whoever there was, come take my
We
spot.
paused for a minute till we got back.
So, to be honest with you, you can see the breakdown. 145 of the 167 are residents. I'm not overly concerned with resident or non-resident, to be that honest with you. It's still a good record. If they're taking the time to go to the village website to look at it, it means they're interested in it, okay? So I think their opinion is valid. But, you know, if you want to just consider residents, 20 at the library, 95 at the municipal lot, 28 neither. If you want to consider them all, you see those numbers. To me, this speaks volumes as to how the overall community feels about the process. It is what it is. Go ahead. So proposed police and municipal. Would you repurpose this existing structure basically? And they've laid out a bunch of programs, police, village courts. And then this is circulation, mechanical, restrooms, elevators, everything you would need to make this fully accessible. Go ahead. It would look like that. And where the fire base are currently exiting out of the building. Go ahead. The budget, as you can see, all in, we're at $5 million. I'd love to make it 4 million if I can, and maybe we can. We don't know until we get into more of the structure and we figure out how much brick work we have to do. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, based on the amount of PVC pipe I have in the ceiling, I need a new roof. Because we're now capturing it and using it for rainwater or something. Right now, we're budgeting $5 million for this project. Okay, go ahead. How does it affect your taxes? Total project budget 15 million. Because we are taking a new construction with a probable useful lifespan of 30 years plus, 50 years, and we're blending it with a renovation of an existing municipal building, we cannot get a full 30-year term on the bond. It's called a blended term. It'll be somewhere between 24 and 26 years. Final determination actually is made by taking the dollar value of each of the projects and what's their portion of the total. And they have a formula that they use. But it will be in this 24 to 26 range, 24 to 26 year range. If you have a village property assessed at $100,000, your tax increase for a $15 million project paid off over 24 to 26 years at a bond rate of 3% would be $210. Right now, and I'm not going to go down because tonight's not the night. We're utilizing 3% for a bond rate calculation. The Sable Forks Fire District just took out a 10-year ban at 1.2%. I believe we can borrow money at 2 to 2.5 right now. The bond market is extremely advantageous right now because the federal lending rate is way low. The interest rate is way down. The bonding market follows the federal interest rate. So it behooves the residents of the village of Scotia, if you can, to take advantage of this very beneficial bond rate. The difference between 2 and 3% on the bond rate on 15 million over 25 years is very real money. Okay. These numbers do need to be confirmed by bond counsel. These numbers were calculated using the numbers that were given to me by bond counsel 2 years ago. So I just did the numbers, but I was able to do the math, I believe. But again, we will have bond counsel confirm all of these numbers. Now versus later. So this was the slide I showed you back 2 years ago. And it was a $10 million project 2 years ago. And we talked about the cost of bonds, we talked about the cost of labor, you can see it, and we talked about the cost of materials. They're all gonna go up, right? Go ahead. So on a $10 million project 2 years ago, I stated that total project increase for a 1-year delay would be 1.7 million. It's been 2 years. And you're at about $4 million pickup from where you were. Labor rates are never going down, construction materials are never going down, and the bond market is volatile. Right now, if you can take advantage of that bond market, you're going to win in the end. If you don't get there until the bond market goes back up to 3.8%, which is what Charlton paid 2 years ago, then you will lose that opportunity. But time is of the essence if you are concerned with the total final cost of the project over the 25-year period. What are the next steps? Village board is here to listen to all community input tonight. They are going to consider the survey results that have been accumulated online. If there are questions that you would like to ask of the committee, that is the email address that we have set up. I checked it, what's today, Tuesday? I checked it Friday afternoon. If something came in there yesterday or today, I'm sorry, but I didn't have any in the inbox as of Friday afternoon. So that's where you can send any questions that you might have. I think that's it, right? How did I do? I told you 20 minutes.
Not
We're
too
gonna
bad.
stop for.
With technical
We're gonna
difficulties.
stop for technical difficulties. Okay. Ready. Who has a question?
So can we get a specific number of parking spaces that will be lost? Considering that the parking lot on the other street will pretty much compensate for the police parking behind Stewart's. And looking at a night like tonight, the amount of spaces that were going to be needed for tonight, and then any business opportunities for the avenue as well as court night, I think some hard numbers, you specified a few, I think it's a little more than a few. So I think it'd be helpful to have some hard numbers.
Yep, I agree. And so the purpose of this process, what we're trying to do is get community input, right, as to which site. Once a site has been selected, then we are going to go into that schematic design period, schematic design phase. And all of those questions will be answered before we go to referendum. So if the village board elects to proceed to go to referendum, then the design work will begin to answer all of those questions. If we can make 16,000 feet, 14,000 square feet, great. Exactly how many parking spots are we gonna have? How many of the spots in the back are gonna be used by the police? How many are gonna be used by village employees? How many are gonna have electric hookups to them? How many are gonna be available to the public? That will all become public knowledge before the vote.
So, Sean,
But after we
Okay.
determine which site.
But right, because I don't want to design two sites.
Can we get an approximate? Because I think a few spots lost is misleading.
yeah, so Tom, I counted, I think that there's something between 3 and 5 more street parking places. Because we'll be able to park all the way in front of the tap room and in front of the fire station, the present municipal building. There'll be some lost in front of the apron, of course, because you can't have them there, but the apron is wide enough that we don't need to take parking spots across the street. That can be parking all the way down.
I think the plan is.
So the total number there is plus between 3 and 5, okay? In the parking lot, I think we're gonna lose about 20. But we'll gain a few. It depends on we haven't talked to the church yet about how we're gonna work it, but I think their parking lot, what's left there can be reconfigured to have quite a few more parking spots than it does now. So the line is gonna be just about at the far end of the present entrance. And it's wide enough between there and the church to have parking on both sides of a a lot that goes all the way back. So I think we'll pick up about 8 or 10 there
It sounds
that
like
aren't there now.
It sounds like it's
So-
10 or 12 or something like that, to be honest. But we have, again, we have not invested the time and money into a civil design on the parking lot to give you a finite answer.
So you're saying that this is not, that picture to the right of it still has the church parking lot and all that.
You want to pull up the site?
It doesn't take over the whole lot.
No.
No.
The blue square, I think, the blue square is deceiving because.
No, it's 25 feet of the church property that's needed for building. And then,
Go to the actual picture.
Keep going one more. And
yeah, but
keep going one more, please. Yeah, there's space to the right, but it won't be a pretty tree.
Oh, okay. I thought this was the entire lot.
okay.
But we don't own that anyway, so it wouldn't be public parking. We'd still be losing, I think there's more than 20 spots.
But no, I think the deal would probably be the same as it is now, although I don't know. I mean, that's up to them.
What was the parking situation in the other location?
The other location has the parking on the back side of the project that faces the I call it the sliding hill there. There's certainly more off-street parking availability due to the size of the parcel up there.
We're gonna lose the street parking.
Yeah, that's right, you would lose the street parking up there for the entry points, sure. Yes, ma'am.
For the park plans,
Yeah.
Collins Park, the entrance or the entrance and exit for the engines would be onto Collins Street?
Yes.
Yes,
Did I hear that?
that's correct. Let me show you.
Not wide enough?
Keep going that. So this is
Yeah.
where they would come out, okay? And yes, so the civil engineer that we had that worked on it, they have these fancy computer things where they can put truck radiuses, turning radiuses in. So we've confirmed that we can make that turn without a problem. Yes, sir.
So the parking lot that's going to be in the back,
On this project now, right?
on this project
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
does that sit near the police parking?
Go to,
And so, Gary, we haven't determined that yet for sure, that the lot that we're getting back here is wider than the one that's over there.
Yeah.
So conceivably, we could have 2 rows of parking with a driveway in between and have village employees park there as well as police.
So that's not. public
That's a
parking.
design thing. We haven't done it yet, but I measured it and it's very possible. We'll hope for that.
My question is that public parking?
I don't think that makes sense. No,
So then that lot that's in the back is not public parking?
right.
Okay.
Right.
So
But if it's municipal employee parking, that frees up quite a lot of what we use the lot for now.
So where do people park at Fortnite? Thursday nights, place is full.
Or when there's
Where do they go?
event like this. Where would they
So
park?
I hear your question. I'm gonna go on a limb and say you would prefer the park site or neither. Is that a fair statement?
My objective here is this lot isn't right for any of them.
Okay, so you're against this lot.
Well,
I
it's
just
a
asked
it's
you
a
a question.
devastating blow to the business community.
Okay. That's why we're here, is to hear
The
these
business
comments.
community funds almost everything that happens in the village as far as different events, so on and so forth, whether it's Holiday on the Ave, music down in the park. It's funded by the business district and as well as the businesses.
Mhm.
People will not park down the street to go to the tap room. They're gonna drive by and they're gonna go elsewhere.
They shouldn't be driving to the tap room anyway. No, that's all.
It's okay to drive there, just
It's
not.
okay to drive. I know Todd.
Where's the?
Was it? That's good.
I don't think that the general public and residents understand the devastation that it'll put on the businesses that are here. And the businesses and the business district fund so much of what happens.
But I think I don't think his question was answered though, as to where people would park.
There is none.
So we have the police parking on the new parking lot that offset behind Stewart's, and the parking directly behind the new facility is staff parking. So where is the offset of park?
That's a smoke screen.
We have 3 or 4 spaces. So it's difficult for the public to really understand the impact of parking for the businesses. If they don't have, I can't imagine it's difficult for a computer to dictate exactly how many spaces there are in a square foot area. I can't imagine. So it's just, to Gary's point, it'll be a devastating blow to the business community that supports the community in so many ways. If we lose 20, 30 spaces, and that's being from a selfish standpoint, as a business owners, right? But then also thinking to court night and other events like tonight. Where are they gonna go? And so what they'll do is on court night, they'll come and they'll park on the street. That further makes more difficulty for the business owners.
Plus, we still have here in this building, we'll have the clerks, the police. I don't know if it's DPW, but there's a lot of things that are gonna happen in this building still. I see the lot getting, I'm right at the paint store. I understand what goes on here all day long. This lot gets used. Contractors are here getting building permits. People are paying their water bills. This lot is used at night, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. There are people either at the theater, there are people at the restaurant down here. There is nowhere to park. And on court night, the place is full. On the street and the parking lot, and it is a devastating blow to this community.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Back in March of 2020, I've done a presentation very similar where we discussed a few other sites. And this municipal lot had been on the slides as a site suggestion. And in that you had told everybody that it was not a viable location due to it being too small and adjacent lot was not for sale. So my question is, why did that change in the last 2 years? And if that changed, are there any other sites that perhaps we could look at again that would maybe have a similar outcome that we can use again?
It changed during the 2 years that have expired, because one of those was we went to a 2-story building. Okay, and originally sorry, what was the second part of the question? Are there other sites that we should be looking at under the same lens, if you will, right? They've done that. So this process is not this. The intent of these 2 meetings is to survey the public and select one of the 2 sites that have been put up.
Or C.
Excuse me?
Or neither.
Or not, or neither, or neither. That's right. Or, hang on. So, okay, hang on.
You said that last meeting. You said you were going to strongly encourage the board to make a decision between the 2,
Yes.
even if the majority says neither.
No.
No, you said
No,
I
no,
made a video
hang on,
of you
hang
saying
on,
that.
hang on. If you think for a minute that we're gonna get a survey that the majority of the people in Scotia say, we don't think you should do either, that they're gonna just say, well, that sounds like that's gonna, bring good results. Let's pick this one. No, I never said that. That's crazy. Okay, so the survey, I'm sorry if the survey isn't showing what your personal belief on the issue is. I'm just sharing with you what has come in. The village clerk can share all of the data and the names. We're not making it up. We haven't manipulated the results. There are no shads or charts or whatever it is. That's what came up. Excuse me?
Can I ask why it's so large, 16,000 square feet compared to Charlton? Can
Because,
I ask
sure,
that?
absolutely.
We are a
Hang on,
small
let me answer.
village.
Hang on, let me answer that. The difference between your fire department and Charlton is Charlton is an all-volunteer fire department that has less fire equipment. Charlton is a all-volunteer, hang on, let me finish, please. You asked me a question, let me answer your question, and then I'll take whatever else you got. Charlton is an all-volunteer fire department. They don't sleep there, they don't wash there, they don't go to, it has no bunk space, it has no locker room space. They have a third of the equipment that this city has. The difference between the Charlton fire district was it, not
Okay,
one?
so there's
That's
16 square feet, 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
How big is, Charlton?
12,000?
Well, I think it's less than that,
Okay, I built it.
a lot less.
I designed it.
Hang on, he designed it, I built it. I'm here to tell you.
I have
They-
2 times Union State to ask.
Oh, okay, well,
I got the ones.
I mean,
hang on.
that's where I'm getting my figures.
Okay, that's great. I'm here to tell you the difference. You asked me what the difference is between the two departments. Charlton is a all-volunteer fire department that answers 142 calls a year. This is the Village of Scotia. It is a paid career staff. Somebody, where's fire? How many calls a year, chief, please? Ballpark.
1,500.
1,500.
How many go to Baptist?
How many what go to Baptist Church?
Falls, Baptist retirement.
I don't know. We're not gonna get into the fire service tonight and whether or not we should be going to Baptist or not.
It just sounds like 16,000 square feet is huge.
Okay, so.
And we'll probably look at the floor plan later.
You're right. So that's the best answer and you answered it. So if the village board elects to move forward to a referendum, okay? It will be on a site because that's important to have. And then the program will be fully developed and we will go through 3 more meetings just like this. That will be a specific site with a specific program, with a specific floor plan. And we'll answer all of those questions about why it's 16,000 and why can't it be 9,000 or 12,000. Absolutely.
Well, that doesn't really make sense, because if you're pricing this out based on
Yeah.
16,000, what is determining we need 16,000 feet? Because per your argument, that step hasn't happened yet.
No.
So why are we determining it's 16,000 now and not 10,000? There has to be some kind of decision about what is included, what is the needs of the department. But you're saying that that hasn't happened yet, and yet we're already determining it's 16,000 square feet. So I'm a little confused why that number is the magic number.
Okay, yeah, will you answer right how you go through your program, please?
So it's a great question. What we're doing here is what we call an order of magnitude. So all we're looking at is, can 16,000 square feet fit on a site? Right? All we're looking at, nothing more. And can we actually make a building out of it?
And how did you get to 16,000 square feet, Dennis?
We sat down with the fire department in the village and we did a interview of, spaces, what do you need? We're looking at the trends where we're looking at things like cross-contamination, ADA control, training within the building, and all the things where the fire service is headed, where we know it's headed. And we're taking into account an order of magnitude. Like Sean said, we do exactly the same thing. Right? We try to get rid of every square foot that's not needed. Right? That's our purpose.
Well, and this was done 3 years ago in 2019 when the committee was formed and all these reports were done. Because part of that documentation included a document and a proposed floor plan where you had 2 day rooms, 6 bathrooms, like amenities that you, as taxpayers, where we're being taxed almost out of the village, we have to wonder, are these things necessary? Maybe they are, but when you look at these things on paper and you're saying, how do we pay for these things? Are we actually being looked out for as residents? Well, we know that we need a new firehouse, we know we need these things, but at the same time, when you're getting slammed with these numbers and you start to think, how are we gonna pay for this? Was everything done? When you're looking at a 3-year-old plan, things have changed in 3 years. We went through 3 consecutive years of crazy tax increases that we have to deal with now.
Okay, well, all we're talking about is an order of magnitude, but you did bring up a point, so I'm gonna get you exactly on a point. However many bathrooms there are, it matters, but what really matters is the code will dictate how many fixtures there are based on population of the building. So
And
so
I
we don't go
understand
to.
talking, you guys wanna talk in a vacuum, like, this is about 2 locations. This isn't about how much you're paying in taxes. It's all relevant, because when we put this to a referendum and people have to vote on this, people might vote no because they don't think we can afford this.
Absolutely.
And that's unfortunate. And so this, and when you guys keep saying, pick a site, this is not about talking about this stuff, this is about picking a site. It's really frustrating
But
for us as
I
residents.
can't design a building that's less than 16,000 with whatever bathrooms it may need or whatever it needs until I have a site.
So basically you start at 16,000 and work backwards.
No,
is what
no,
you're saying.
no, no.
I don't-
I'm just trying to
That's just
understand.
order of magnitude,
Hang on a
so I
second.
can
He
lay
sat
out.
and went through, he's been doing this longer than I've been alive, almost, sorry, Dennis. They have a system, trust me, it works, they've done 400 of these. It's called a program, it's an interview he goes through, he's done it. It comes back an initial ballpark, just where are we, so when we know when, we gotta go look for land, am I looking for a piece of land that will handle this much or that much? It's a starting point. We're at 10 million now, we're gonna go through a series if the village board elects to go to referendum, we start a whole nother painful process of 120 days of asking all the same questions again. Do you need 5 toilets? Can you get away with 4? Do we really have to park all the trucks out inside? Can some of them go outside? What can we do? If we're gonna renovate the village hall, can we take some of the meeting space that's currently programmed for the fire station and eliminate it? I'd love to chop 2,000 or 3,000 square foot out of this thing, but we're not gonna do it until we're on a site and we've been told that we're going to referendum. That's really where we are. The meeting that's important, okay, is the last meeting right before you go to referendum, because at that point, the village board will make a resolution to go to referendum that will identify the cost of the project and the size of the project and the location of the project. So we might come to you in 100 days, again, if they choose to go to referendum and say, guess what, folks? You beat the hell out of me back in, what month are we in? March? And it wasn't, it's 16,000 and 10 million. It's now 14,000, I'm at 8.7 million. I'm opening bids in Saratoga Springs in 4 weeks. I'm gonna have the best cost indicator you could ever wanna get, okay? And this is what it is. And you might say, that's too big, that's too much, that's the wrong site, I don't like it, I do like it. And that's for everybody in the village of Scotia to come and vote on. Trust me when I tell you, we do know what we're doing. And it's not, I'm not here to who would win. Huber Brewer does $350 million a year. We are not here because I have to sell a project. Okay, we're trying to get the village of Scotia our experience, and that's all it is experience. And we're telling you, this is the process that we have used in the past that has been successful in creating essential facilities for the communities that need them.
Has there been any thought to what this cost of this building is going to be for future tax impact for maintenance, such as
Yeah,
insurance?
it's gonna be far better because I'm not gonna have a 100-year-old boiler downstairs
No,
that's
because we're
burning
gonna have
oil.
a $5 million new building here,
Yes.
and then a $10 million new
Yes.
building.
And they
So
will-
we've got 2 new
Yeah,
buildings
and they
now
will be
instead of.
far
the one
more, they will
before.
be far more efficient than this single building sitting here right now. Because I'm gonna be using high energy efficiency boilers at 98%. I took down, I can share with you quickly, I did the Tully Fire Station, it's on Route 81, half hour south of Syracuse. They had an 8,000 square foot, single story brick structure built in 1951. And they were just blowing money out the walls with gas fired, heaters that hang from the ceiling, and that's how they heated the building. They went to a building twice the size, 16,000 square feet, 2 stories with an elevator, air conditioned. And they were spending less money per year on that structure than they were on the 8,000.
So you're talking about a new building, you're not talking about 2 buildings. Like
Correct.
this is what,
Correct.
you're talking about restoring this building.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
building a brand new building.
That's right. But again,
So.
yeah, that's
I
all,
don't
that's all.
understand how
But
that is
we
gonna be
also-
almost
we
exactly
also-
the same.
we also have to-
I don't get that.
We also have to understand what we're spending on an annual basis right now just to put PVC pipe in the room.
I don't think anyone's arguing that we need to change this.
Okay.
I don't think that's
That's-
the
okay.
argument at all.
Right.
And using the straw man argument that we all know something has to change, so let's vote on this. That's not the issue. The issue is that, can we afford the 2 options that are being presented? Because it's the only 2 being jammed down our throats right now.
Okay, so thank you for your comments. Hang on, you already got one turn. You already got one turn, yes, sir.
So hopefully moving forward, the referendum,
Yeah.
when that happens, is that that's on one option, yes or no?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is
Which
correct.
type of referendum are we talking about?
Where you go and stuff the ballot in the box, right? Well, or
Which is
voting
mandatory or
booths.
permissive?
No, mandatory. Everybody comes, no, we're not gonna try and slide the cat under the door, no. Okay, sorry, so people online.
Yes.
Yes,
Gwen was up first.
Nicole?
Okay. This is Gwen Palmetier. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so my concern, and I would like to know why, you stated that this presentation essentially was from 2018. Then you said 2 years ago, but 2018 was actually 4 years ago. So I'm wondering why the village hasn't been fiscally responsible enough to take this project and reevaluate it and renegotiate what our needs versus wants, and then renegotiate where our budget fits into that, given we're in a post-pandemic society. Inflation is on the rise. There's just, I believe it's just fiscally irresponsible to sit here and say, this is what we looked at 4 years ago. Let's correct that. It wasn't 2 years, it was 4 years ago. And now here we're going to vote on it again. There have been no changes made. The proper information has not been provided to citizens in order to make a fair and educated decision. And I'm just wondering why this is all happening and why residents have to go the extra step to submit FOIL requests that aren't even completely adhered to, or rather responded to, where
Okay.
documents were omitted.
Let me answer the first part because I think it's the easiest one, okay? Sorry, I can't see you, so this feel like I'm talking to George, but he has a.
Oh, I thought I had my camera on. I
No,
had my
you
camera on.
might, you might, but I can't see it. I'm just being silly a little bit.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm sorry, if I said 2018, I misspoke. I originally did this work 2 years ago in 2020, okay? So if I said 2018, I misspoke. There has been efforts back in 1991, in 2001, in 2006, in 2011. I was not part of those. I was still in college.
Okay, but nobody is arguing the fact that we need a new firehouse.
Okay.
However, what we are arguing is that there has been zero reevaluation of this project or renegotiation, given the current financial situation that we are in, not only as a village, but as a country, but it impacts our village. We are in post-pandemic times here. We are not in the same financial situation that we were 2 years ago, or even 4 years ago, or 10 years ago. So it is fiscally irresponsible to sit here and say, here's this presentation that we've already looked at. I understand you're in it to make money, and that's your part in it. And of course you want to build a building because that's how you get paid. However, as taxpayers, we shouldn't foot the bill to line your pocket, and it's irresponsible of our government to not reevaluate given the current financial situation that our village is in.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Just so you know, I will not be building the building. That's not my role. I will not be, quote unquote, lining my pockets. Okay. So I have no interest in building this building. Okay. We are here. We have been engaged by the Village of Scotia. I feel like I'm not talking to you. I'm sorry, but I was just trying to talk to the
camera out there. You can see the camera out there.
We've been engaged because this is what we do for business. This is what we do for a living. And yes, we make money in business, just like every business owner sitting here today. Their goal, if anybody tells you in their business and it's not to make money, they're lying to you. Okay? So everybody that is in business to make money. We've been selected because of our experience, simply put. Let me get one more online so that they feel as though there's two more. Okay.
But Nicole.
Okay, can you hear me?
You guys should have
Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so first off, I want to kind of clarify a few things for those who are in the village. I came from an architectural firm, so those who are giving the presentation, I apologize, I'm in my car, so I haven't been able to see everything. However, I get the program requirements and how that works. I understand the whole entire design process, and you are spot on. You are absolutely right in terms of the process and the entire scenario from step 1 to step 2, step 3, step 4. I think that there's a couple of things that are to make sure that when we choose a site tonight, and I understand it, I'm trying to help those in the audience maybe help understand, right? Tonight, it is strictly the site. It is not the dollar amount. And can clarify for me if I stand wrong, because once you go through those programmatic requirements and you space plan and you determine we don't need files from 1950, 60, 70, right? Now those storage requirements go down. I don't need a 16,000 square foot space. Maybe we need a 14,000 square foot space. We gain 20 spaces out of that, parking spaces. So now we're a solved solution for the parking for businesses, right? We have an updated ADA compliant building. As long as when we choose a site between the two proposed currently, that we are not also tying into the estimated amount of cost. And I'm asking. What?
Just to clarify, you're not married to.
You're not married to me, right?
I've been in the design field. I'm a space planner by trade, so I get everything that you're saying. So
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Did we have one more and then that would complete the online?
There was one more.
They went to.
Well.
Smart. Yes, ma'am.
So my name is Karen.
Yeah, no, I got one here.
Represent Converge Community Church, which has just bought the Swish Bowling Alley, and we're in the process of remodeling.
Okay.
And so because of that, I have no construction background whatsoever, other than I just found myself stuck in the middle of it.
Give her your card, Sean.
But some of the things that we're arguing about, like the size of the building, is limited by things like the ADA compliance. We had to take a 2-person female bathroom that we had that was okay in 1950, and we had to knock it down to a 1-person stall because it wasn't big enough according to the new regulations, and we weren't even in the handicap bathroom stalls. The stalls were just too small for what they allow nowadays. So it's just, spacing is somewhat not contingent on his game plan. He knows how many firemen are gonna be sleeping there at night. He has to have enough bathrooms and beds and space for them. He has to have enough space around the fire truck. You know, he has to have enough space for the fire boat. Like, there's a limit to how much he can cut back. And I don't think there's anybody in this room who doesn't think we need a new fire building, right? And his job is to shrink that estimated 16,000 square feet as small as he can once he has a space option and he can see what he's gonna do. But if he builds a 2-floor building, he's got to put elevators in there. That's a different space
changes.
Occupation.
And 2 sets of stairs.
And 2 sets of stairs.
And it drives the electrical service, and it drives the size of the generator because of the startup demand.
And for people who don't, and I was there 6 months ago, no idea what it took to redo a building. No idea what it took to make something more cost effective. Like, we need a fire station where a fire truck isn't gonna fall through the floor. Right? That's gonna be a whole lot more expensive than $15 million if we lose a fire truck into the basement of the firehouse. And that's really where we are. As a business owner on the street, I don't like losing this, the spaces of putting it on Mohawk Ave. I understand why the community likes it here. It looks like where they had it. I get that, but I agree. I don't think they're understanding the lack of parking spaces. And I don't think it's fair to say, well, City View will go ahead and just let us use their parking spaces, because we don't ask that of any other business to make their parking spaces public. And that is, I'm not speaking for City View, but I am concerned about parking when they have their food pantries. Is there gonna be enough space for those people to get in and out, and for our customers to still be able to get on and off the shops and get to the coffee shop and all of that kind of stuff as well. So those are just things, that's my heart and my game plan.
Thank you. Let me get the people who haven't asked one yet. Go ahead.
She was first.
Okay, go ahead.
I know that you had talked about the program, and one of the things I've been looking for in the documentation is an analysis of our needs and what is needed. And I know you're saying we put this program together. You know, and I also have concerns on who put the program together, you know, and there was a facilities committee that was put together, and it was put together several years ago. Several of those members have moved. Several of those members have stepped down because they don't agree with the project as it is currently. So, you know, touting that and that the facilities committee was the one that put this forward, I think is a little misleading. I think the program was developed by the fire chief. And again, maybe the fire chief wants a day room, maybe the fire chief wants a training tower built in, you know, but I think the board's job and what they need to do is think of the residents and think of how, you know, that those kinds of wants can be evaluated and seen if they are really needs, you know, and I think that was, you know, part of something you were supposed to do was that analysis of what was needed, and I haven't seen any of that. I've asked for that, you know, particularly say like a training tower. Like obviously we don't have a training tower right now, and we train our firemen. You know, they go somewhere to get trained, and you know, what's that cost? And does it make sense to spend $500 per square foot to put a built-in training tower into our facility? And you know, things like that make a huge difference on what your program is and where it can fit and what sites you can select. And so I have some concerns in that, you know, we're putting in room for people to sleep, but it's not for the 4 firemen that are on it. There's 8 veterans, not 4, you know, and so some of these things would be nice, and maybe 4 years ago or 3 years ago, when we looked at that program, you know, we thought maybe that's what we could afford. You know, but I think that we need to, as a village, really look at what we can afford and scale it back. Like, I realize we can't park the trucks in what we have now. It's 2,700 square feet, but we're proposing a bay that's 2.7 times that. That's like almost 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
We have 4 vehicles that we park, correct? We're talking about a 25-foot at max fire truck that we're putting in a bay that's 80 foot long.
Hang on.
I'm just saying, I think it's excessive
Okay.
for what we're looking at. Sure, you can give me the exact specs of a fire truck. I'm just saying, I think that the program was developed, it got us to a size, I think it says in here, 1,400 square feet. Or 14,000 square feet. So now it went from 14,800 to 2 years ago, it was presented as 16,000. And now the Collins Park site is 17,192. So over the last 3 years, the site hasn't changed, the location hasn't changed, but we've increased it by 2,500 square feet, which is over $1 million. Which is, I mean, we're talking about a 13% increase to our taxes if we go with one of these options on this location. I think option C, which is either, is a valid concern, and I believe somebody stated that earlier, that he voted not because he doesn't agree with the sites. So I think we can scale this back and be fiscally responsible as a village, figure out what our actual needs are versus what our wants are, and find a site that would fit on.
I agree with everything you just said. And that is the process of the schematic design that would happen prior to the referendum. You put in this-
But it could fit on a different site if
It's not
it
gonna-
was half the size.
It's not going to be half the size. I can trust me. So the initial program, call it 16,000 square feet. The discussion that Mr. Ross, who's been doing this for a while, he sat there and picked away at everybody's brain at the table and said, and she said, well,
Who's the chief who checked his wants? I'm just
no,
saying.
hang on.
There's
hang
nothing
on.
in your documentation.
You're making an assumption that the chief at the time gave in data that was not valid, is what you're suggesting.
I'm not saying.
Can you provide
I'm not
evidence
saying
to the
he didn't
contrary, because that was not included in
Yeah,
any of the
because
FOIL documentation. We asked for the FOIL documentation.
Hang on.
That was not in the FOIL documentation. You made us FOIL for the documentation, so.
Hang on.
It's just, it's not gonna
It
change.
is frustrating. This
I
is
agree.
very
We're both
frustrating,
frustrated.
and I don't understand why, because to be quite frank with you, this is the only community where it is this frustrating, to be quite honest with you. We don't normally have these types of discussions.
The
If
way
you
this
understand-
project was handled was not
If
with
you-
transparency, and that's why we're having this
The way the
discussion.
project was handled is no different the way that we handle every project.
So you dust off a plan from 3 years, don't revisit it based on changing
No,
financial
if you-
circumstances,
if you-
and then present it
No,
again like it's new.
No, if you listen, please.
I've been listening for 2 meetings.
Sean, we have two
Hang
more
on,
hands
hang
on the.
If you listen, please. The process to get to referendum is called schematic design. It is everything you two are talking about right now. And nobody likes the $10 million number. I get it. Okay, I'm not building the building. I have no skin in it. I don't care if it's 10 million or 4 million. I prefer 4 million because I know it'll get approved and the project will actually happen. And we won't worry about trucks falling in the basement anymore. Okay, so my job, why they have engaged me, is to make this project as cost effective as possible. That is the goal over the next 100 days. Ask all the hard questions. The chief's not gonna like me. I've told many clients, you're not gonna like me from what I'm about to say to you. Have you thought about parking your boat down at the marina instead of in square footage fire bay that's X? And he might say, I need it for response. We'll figure out what that answer is. All of those questions are going to be asked. I know you're gonna be here. If they go to referendum, I know you'll be here at every meeting. And I know you're gonna ask the question, and we're gonna have to have answers, and we're gonna have to have floor plan. And we're gonna have to demonstrate to you why the square footage that is being proposed is appropriate. Let us get there.
But to your point, we're going in a circle, because
Going-
wait, no, can I listen to you speak,
No,
sir?
no, because you're starting to
No,
dominate the
you said the
conversation.
starting point for this conversation was the 2019 documentation. You brought out a box, you thumped it on the table, and you said, this is all the stuff.
That's
And
2001.
so, okay, 2001, and then 2019 was the main crux of this, the committee,
That's right.
that the members aren't really on the committee anymore.
Right.
This was a 3-year-old project, it hasn't been revisited since, we haven't taken into account our current budget situation. And so now you're saying, all of this stuff was decided at that time, but we can't revisit it because we have to pick a location before.
Holy moly.
No,
I'm gonna say
I'm trying
one
to
more time,
follow
you
and I'm
two people on
going
that.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, and several back here, too.
I'm good.
Hello? We lost sound again.
So fun fact for everybody who's on this call, the village population has actually decreased from the census in 2010, where there were 7,729 residents, and the last census in 2020, where there were 7,272 residents. So we haven't gotten larger, we've actually gotten smaller.
My issue is I don't understand why they don't want to revisit any of the other properties that are so-called unviable. That's my biggest question, why we are trying to decide on a site when there might be 12 other different places that we could choose from.
Oh, well, here's the reason, because the mayor wants the library, that's it.
All
Not
of
just
the
him and
sites.
board. They want the library, that's, all of this is a sham, they want the
No,
library.
can you hear me? The sites, all of the other sites were either deemed that they were too small for turning radiuses for trucks, or that the people who were going to sell them wanted way too much money, like $3 million or more for different sites. So it wasn't that the sites, that we can go back and look at them, but they're all, they were deemed unviable because of very specific reasons.
But no one
Turning
has
radius
given
for
those
one of those trucks is huge. They got to have the space.
You're absolutely right, but I feel like the whole issue is transparency. So why aren't they telling us what each of these sites are and what makes them unviable?
They were supposed to have listed all of that stuff out for us after the last meeting. That was one of the big things that was suggested in the last meeting, is to have the sites listed and as to
Yep,
why
they
they
didn't
weren't
do it.
viable. Well,
They
I
didn't do it.
understand they didn't do it. That doesn't mean that we didn't ask
There's a
for
reason why
it.
they didn't do it. The village is everybody's in each other's pockets. Everybody is getting what they want. None of this is all an illusion, I guess you want to call it. This is an illusion to make us look like we have input.
If we don't vote on anything, then they're not going to get what they want unless they go
No,
against
the
everything that
gentleman
we want.
actually, they said at the last meeting that if, no matter what, they were going to push it through, even if people had come back and said neither, right? They were going to still, what was
Right,
the
and
words
that's
they
when you
used?
go to referendum and you vote no.
Right, and I don't think it will get it.
Because
I'm
we
just
still
saying
have
that's
to, because we still get the right to vote.
right. And
if we don't,
that's why
and
all
if
of
we
this is
say no-
important, to get the information out to people. Because
Correct.
first of all, they actually can't build on the parkland because it's in the deed where it was gifted to the village, that nothing
and
can be, it's protected land.
Right,
But
and that is that's the paperwork that they have to fill out with the state of New York.
Right, so they
And
want to
the state of
petition
New
the state of
York
New
could
York.
come back. The state of New York can come back and say, no, we're not.
What the fuck?
After two eventful 2-hour discussion and the input of an online survey, I'm going to encourage the village board to make a decision as to whether or not to go to referendum. If they choose to do that, I would like to tell you, and I'm not even going to use the word because it's a terrible word to use. I am hoping that I will be able to demonstrate to you over the next 120 days or so, that all of these questions that you're asking, that we will have a good answer for you prior to you having to make a vote or a decision. And you may, it might be the answer I give you. I'm just going to use the gentleman who word it brought the parking. You might not like my answer when I say, we finally drew it, I'll do it. At the end of the day, we're losing 14 spots or whatever. He might say, well, that's not acceptable. And he's going to vote no. I would like to think, I thought about it today and I thought, well, first of all, there's probably not room in the room for him. I don't know how to convey to you. I would ask you to reach out if you so desired and had the time and wanted to. Please reach out, go to Mr. Ross's website, go to our website, take a look at the clients we've worked for, call them, get their feedback, talk to them, say, did Huber Brewer do what they said they were going to do? Did H2M do what they said they were going to do? We are at the very starting of the process. The process here is a little different because we got such a turf war going on in this village. We can't even decide what site to put it on. Doesn't normally happen that way, just being honest. So we're trying to get on a site. All of these concerns that you have are valid. They're all going to be addressed. You may not like the answers, but I'm going to at least be able to tell you why the decision was made and who made it. That's what we do over the next 120 days. And I hope you'll give this team and this village board and the fire department guys and the police guys the opportunity to develop the information so that you, the community and village of Scotia, can have an informed decision to make your vote. That's all we're asking. Yes, ma'am.
If the village.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you, I'm sorry. It's not that I don't like you.
No, I know. Can you go through the process of,
What happens?
one of the spots are picked, and I know at the last one we talked about grants.
Yeah.
And once a spot is picked, that's when the girl that you have that's so great starts going for grants. And is that
There's no sound. There's no sound. Can anybody hear us? Thank you for working on the sound issue.
I don't know if he's working on the sound issue. He's just kind of staring at it. Doesn't look like he's
No,
working on
they
much of
put up a
anything.
sign. They put up a sign that said working on the sound issue.
Oh, they did.
Somehow go from what is currently a career fire department with, fair to say.
Yeah, what's the difference between a career and a volunteer and
What
space
the-
requirements? Because you don't have to have,
It's
like,
mostly it's the dorm space.
like you don't have to have all the space.
It'd be the bedroom, so one of the things, and we're digressing, but I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole with you because I think it's valid. One of the things that you can imagine that Dennis and I will be talking with Chief Victor about is stupid things like these bunk spaces. Are they a gang bunk space or are they individual bunk spaces? The chief might have some thoughts that it should be individual. I'm gonna sit there and say, do you understand if I go individual bunk spaces, it's about $2,400 for the door and the frame. They have to have independent heating and ventilation for each room. If they have independent sprinkler for each room, they have to have electrical on each wall. It goes on and on and on. So we share with them what the cost is between having what we call gang bunk and having independent bunk. No, we're not even into those discussions yet, but that's the level of detail that I'm gonna be pushing him for as I decide what is the magnitude of cost on the building. And that'll all gonna happen through this next 12-week process, right? But if the Village of Scotia was ever to go from what is today a career-based a career-based fire department with volunteer support currently, but it's fair to say it's I don't want to use the minimal, but it's not, the volunteer ranks are not what they used to be. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
They would be one of the first to ever go in that other direction. The majority of the fire departments that Dennis and I are working on right now, unfortunately, are going from all volunteer to career. Why is that? Because NFPA just created a list of.
Don't say unfortunately in this crowd.
Well, but the standards that have been created in order for firefighters to be allowed to participate has dramatically increased. And it makes it impossible for the average guy who's got 2 kids in Little League and a wife and a job and a lawn that needs to be mowed to commit the hours required to get that training. And that has a severe impact on their ability to attract volunteers. So unfortunately, from a budget perspective, unfortunately, more and more communities are going to a career staff. So if any community, whether it be Scotia or anyone, to go in the other direction, have you ever heard of it? Nope.
Do you have any examples of that? Like a good comparison, like on the PowerPoint, you put Charles and Leadville. These are, if they're volunteers, why put them on your PowerPoint? But if you have these statistics that another community in New York State did this, show that as on your graph. Show that on your graph.
I'm sorry, did what?
Those people that are on volunteers that are now saying, even though they're on a budget, let's go out and get some career firemen, okay?
Sure.
So if you showed statistics to these people in Scotia of what other places are doing in New York State, where you told them, hey, we built a firehouse, okay? We built it over here, okay, in Jonesville. And they're career, they're not volunteer. I'm just saying, because I know they're volunteer, okay?
No, actually, they're
And
hybrid.
then, whatever, okay, if you gave statistics and you compared things and said, this is what this community is doing, then maybe you get some people that would be buying into something.
Oh, I can share with you as much as you'd like to know. Let's use Stateville for
You
it.
just put your PowerPoint together with a grid.
He's
giving us some local
He was Hang on. One discussion, please. I'll share with you Stateville. Stateville answers 4,500 calls a year, okay? They are a combination career and volunteer staff. They have 150 volunteer members. Do you want to know how they did it? They did it because they went to a duty roster ideal, where if you join the fire department, you are there from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. one night a week, okay? And that's how they staff the department at night. You mentioned Jonesville too. Jonesville too is not volunteer or career. It's actually a combined station. They have career people that work during the day. They have volunteers that staff it at night. Okay, so they don't have the bunk spaces there because they're not sleeping people overnight. All right, so I can speak to you all night long about the different demographic setups of every fire department I've ever done, because it's how we get the program done. We have to learn we have to learn it. But if you would please let me get through the next 12 weeks and learn it, I will come to you and I will fully demonstrate the need. I'll show you what I cut out. I'll tell you what he's pissed at, excuse my friends, what he's upset with me about. There's a poor language, I'm sorry. Let me do my job and I will, and then you can yell at me. And if you disagree, that's fine. Let me do my job, please. And I will give you the answers you are looking for. They might not be the answers you want, but I guarantee you, we can give you the answers you're looking for.
I was just under the assumption that that should have been done before selecting site. Like, and I realize you're gonna say it's the details, but when the details make it a couple thousand different and you can fit it on another site, I think those details are important. And if that was something we needed to do ahead of time in order to select the correct site, then that's what we should have invested our money in.
I agree with you, but you have to understand, you understand that what drives the site is the fire-based space and the apparatus and the turning movers and the site of it. That's what's driving it. So whether or not,
is at 80-foot deep.
what if right? Well, what is the 80-foot based on? Do we know?
Yeah.
I do. So an average engine is 32 foot 6 inches. NFPA says you're supposed to have 8 feet in front, 8 feet in the middle, and 8 feet behind each engine. So if you take 2 and you stack them back to that, what's 32 times 2 is 64, and then you go 8, 8, and 8. What does it add up to? 86.
So there's 2 people online.
That's how we get to the number. We didn't just make it up.
Gwen, you already asked a question, so I would defer to Ms. Mearcat.
Yeah, Rachel, go ahead.
Rachel?
Was I close on the dimensions?
Sorry, I was trying to, I had my hand up so I could get you guys to notice we didn't have any sound. But in regards to a question, site-wise, I mean, what is, we're talking about sites and you've got the 2, and we know a lot of the cons, but can you give us some of the pros of what we'd be looking at both of the 2 sites that you have as suggestions that you'd like us to say we like or dislike? Can you give us some pros? Like what would be like the benefits of putting the firehouse either next to the library or in our parking?
In my opinion, I don't know, and let me start and why don't you piggyback if needed. In my opinion, the pros to putting it here is the relationship between the 2 municipal services that are being provided, okay? So I think there's value in that. I think there's value in having it face Main Street right on Mohawk. I think there's value in that, all right? If you go to the park, the site adjacent to the library, the park, I believe it allows for a single story. If you go to Facebook, so one of the things we do is we take all of our owners, all of our representatives through other fire stations that we built, and we let them talk to the fire department there and say, what's good, what's working, what's not working, what do you wish you had more of, what don't you need? That's part of the process. If you talk to Fayetteville right now, they have a 2-story and they're saying it's taking us too long to get from the bed to the engine. I know it sounds crazy, but that's their #1 beef about their station. We wish the bunk rooms were on the 1st floor. So one of the pros to the Collins Street site would be single story. Okay, the other pro would be no investment for elevators or staircases, again, because of single story. So in my opinion, those are the two pros that I see for the two sites. That guy, he's gonna wait.
Well, I can shake my heart. So I guess what I'm taking from this meeting here is that if we build here in the parking lot, we're really not gonna have municipal parking in the back because it will be more for the police department and probably fenced in and sectioned off. And by the way, as a business owner, I am pro-police and pro-fire.
Especially if I'm on fire, right?
Exactly. You don't need them or you need them, right? Isn't that how it goes?
That's right.
But if we build a firehouse here, we're still backing trucks in, off the road, back into a firehouse in 2 ways with a signal like 300 feet from the corner or so. It doesn't make sense that we're doing the same thing.
So let me address that. The nice thing that the difference between the current location and what is being proposed here is the apparatus pad is deep enough where a full-size engine can come in and do a U-turn on the pad without going back out into the road and back into the bay he has to get to. We know if it's 3 bays wide, they can't make it. At 4 wide, they can make that turn.
So hypothetically, is there a way, if it got built here, to make this smaller?
Yeah.
So that we can put some parking spots in there?
I agree. That's part of the things we have to work on is if I can pinch 8 or 10 spots down the side of this thing, wouldn't that be a win for everybody?
Absolutely.
Let me try. That's all I'm saying.
That's it.
And there's one more on mine too, when, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question that sort of backs up, but I think might be some of the issue.
Okay.
So we're down to 2 locations.
Yeah.
And you said you started with
22. Yeah, something like that.
why were some of those not chosen? Like, why are we down to?
Common through the evaluation, either too small, access for the engines, and I'm not being critical, but for some reason, you folks, whoever laid out this village, you got some funky angles to your street.
We do.
Okay, so, and those angles create problems for the guys driving these large rigs. So one of the things we look at, so I always use it as an example, I call it the stone pit across from the pizza joint down here.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we have to come back in on this side street. If you ever come, I don't know what that side street is, but when you go around that bend, you're basically in that guy's living room on that corner. And he's like, we won't make this with the truck. We're not going to be able to come back this way. That's why, so that's one thing, site access or site size, or there's a lovely site down here on the corner. What's that next one down? Sorry. It's been a while since I've been home. Huh?
John and
Yeah, beautiful, huge open lot. If I told you what he wanted for that lot, it's a third as a project.
On Route 2.
Ocean Waters?
Yeah, he's, everything's for sale, but everything has a price. So it is the acquisition of the property blew the project so far out of the water that we didn't think it was feasible. Those are really the 3 main.
For me, that helps me to understand why we're down.
That's the
these 2
process,
locations
that's right.
only as
That's why the
options.
process, that's how the
Okay,
process
thank
is
you.
about. That's it.
So I zoomed in, I was on the Zoom call, I was on the call. I get everything that you're saying.
Okay.
I think 2 things after hearing comments here. I think however it was presented, not saying you, 'cause I don't know any players, okay? I have no idea of walking in. First, I think to answer her question, having a history of how we got to here today would have helped even answer some of the basic questions of the 80-foot turn radius. What's required for the 80-foot bay, right? The 8 feet, the truck, the 8 feet, the truck, boom. Question answered when we're looking at those requirements. Because I saw the FOIL requests as well, and I'm sitting here from a program standpoint saying, no, no, no. You have to think, and I know this is the next phase. This is not Clifton Park, this is not Mississippi, you know. We are landlocked from 7,700 people, now 7,200 people in the village from the current census. We've actually declined in population. We aren't growing anymore, right? If anything, we're gonna continue to get smaller or continue to be around the same, right? So growth within the fire department,
we have to argue or find out why. We are practical people. We are not overindulgent people. And I think moving forward with the next phase, once the site is determined, you need to also keep that in mind. And I get your expertise. I totally get it in this field. I understand.
Expert's a strong word, but experienced, I will think.
I also want to say, I just pulled in, okay? There are 5 cars, I'm on 5. Okay, so when we talk about, I understand the parking, that lot is mostly full, but there is a whole lot of parking on the street, and that's where I park. I always park on the street. I never think to go to the lot. And so I think we've become accustomed to that lot being available, but there's nothing more cool than coming down the village and seeing a whole line of cars parked on both sides on an evening night, on a work night, and say, wow, this village is really happening. You don't see that right now because all the cars are parked in this municipal lot. And so I think we just need to change our culture a little bit and think how we can advertise the village by having all the streetcar or the cars parked down Route 5, Mohawk Ave, as opposed to conveniently being right here. That's all I'm gonna say. Think differently, think outside the box. Because for me, I really appeal to having the convenience of this building being adjacent to the new one. And I appreciate answering the questions I even had about those 80-foot bays and the U-turns required.
I'm gonna try, I'll be honest with you, when you understand that this building is 60, then just so you understand how my brain thinks, it drives me that nuts on a regular basis. So I shouldn't ride in the car anymore with me. It's 60 feet wide, right? For 420, almost 80 feet wide. If I can shave 2 foot off the back of the bays, in my world, that's 160 feet at 500 a head, right? That's real money. So when we talk about where, but there's nothing worse, to be quite honest with you.
No sound. No sound.
Years from now, right? So all of that has to be, but then we even look at designs. When you look at when you look at the front entrance, back in the day, they wanted to put doors, pedestrian entry doors on the side of the fire bay doors, okay? Because people might walk in. Well, Dennis will tell you, it's not a good idea to encourage foot traffic on the apparatus because somebody gets run over. But what also happened is by eliminating the doors on the side of the fire bay doors, I eliminated that 3-foot path that's 80 foot long. It's 250 square feet. We used to put all of the turnout gear, all where they hang up their coats, they have these little like lockers, right? We used to put them on the sidewalls. And what did it do? It added 3 feet by 80 feet down both sides. So what do we do now? We put in what we call a turnout gear room. It's a much smaller room, far less square footage. It holds more equipment. It's better for the equipment. The equipment doesn't get the vehicle exhaust on it. It doesn't get the water from washing the truck. It doesn't get the UV coming in through the lights on the doors. All kinds of reasons to put it in a separate room with a special exhaust system that pulls all of those carcinogens out of that equipment and gets rid of it. That's how we save square footage. You know, it's amazing. Dennis is probably the leader. Sorry, don't plug your ears for a second. He's probably the leader in the country when it comes to designing stations that eliminates firefighters being exposed to carcinogens. 20 years ago, wasn't the only one thing killing firefighters. It wasn't fire. It was heart attacks. What's the number one thing killing firefighters today?
Cancer.
Cancer. Okay, that's a fact. So his design, he talks about hot zones, where the nasty stuff is, cool zones, transition zones, and then where we eat and sleep and shower, that we have separate HVAC systems that will keep the people that are working there safe and healthy. All part of the process, okay? But we have tried over the years, and Dennis has been doing this a lot longer than I have, trying to find cost-effective ways to deliver the program we need in the smallest box we can. Yes, sir.
I want to kind of get back to the help in the decision and bringing a point, kind of counter to you. My office is directly across the street from that parking lot.
Okay.
I've been there for 40 years. That parking lot is full, and so is the street all day long. All day long. We have very few people. I have 2 employees that park in that. I happen to be one of them because I don't want the other ladies in my office walking in the snow, so I park across the street. You know, we have historically taught all the business owners not to park themselves and their employees on the street so that we can treat our employees, our customers better than our employees. We are all doing that right now. I'm not gonna be hurt that bad by losing the parking spaces, but I'd like to reframe this question. Would you rather lose that small amount of park space and that beautiful view that we have there, and would you rather lose that, or would you rather lose the theater and the tap room? Because it will directly affect their bottom line when we lose that part. So the question to me is, do you like the theater better than you like that small area of the park? Because it's a real small part of it. What is the acreage that we're talking about in the park?
27.
What is it?
Just under an acre.
It's under an acre. How many acres is that Collins Park?
300 something.
I don't know.
Over 300 acres. We're talking less than 1/3% of the park. Another thing is, we have other parkland in the village. We have Flint, so we're not really having a whole lot of effect on our parkland by doing this.
Your comments are well received. I think you make valid, certainly you're a vested interest in the
I
process.
have a vested interest.
No doubt about it. And to be quite honest,
it doesn't hurt me as much.
No, I
as it
understand,
does
but
other
you have a vested perspective that certainly needs to be heard. And that's really what this process has been about. Maybe I didn't use the right word. Your viewpoint is important.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
maybe
share
I used the wrong
the
word.
view that I had.
Right, and that's what this process was
Parking
about, is for you to say that, and for other people to say, don't touch our park for whatever and to have that discussion, to give the village board the directions via survey as to which way they think the residents would prefer we go. That's really what this was all supposed to be about.
So since it also takes up parking spots, maybe it's time to reevaluate the mega stewards. Can we open that back up?
Mega Stewart.
We're getting another mega gas station next door that actually displaces current police parking. So maybe we can look at that again.
Yeah, it's good.
Maybe it's more of a trustee question. It's more of a trustee question because again, but to some of the points that were brought up, we're talking about the firehouse and municipal lab. Again, I have not found a person who says we don't need it. So that's clear. But in the context of these other decisions, that's sort of, again, we brought it up last meeting, this meeting. There's a context here, right? So it's like there's no continuity of decision making here, right? So it's like, well, we approve a second giant gas station here that also displaces parking spots. Can we, at this point, maybe it's a mayor trustee question, in the course of this reevaluate, can we gain some parking back from that and reevaluate that project? So not a you question, Sean, I know, but something to put in front of the.
There's still Sean, just go ahead on online.
Yes. I think they should
say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I do want to thank, I've lost track. It's been a long meeting. Whoever said, this is just about picking locations. So let's just put all the money talk and all of that aside. I'm going to speak to you as somebody who has heard people say over and over that area of the park is underused and why do we need it? Nothing happens there. That parking lot, if we're going to compare parking lots, that parking lot is busy all of the time, filled with kids and parents going to and from Little League games, softball games, all sorts of sporting events.
You mean the library parking, right? Yeah.
Right, yes, sorry, the library parking lot, which is going to be directly behind the fire palace, if it were to be built there. So that's completely utilized all the time. In the winter, you have families going there, myself with my 5-year-old, sledding, playing. Everybody is in that parking lot. You've got tons of kids all over. That's an accident waiting to happen, first of all. But second of all, that corner, and let me just, I'm going to be all over the place, so I apologize. Coming into the village during that last snowstorm we had and seeing that corner, which is like essentially the welcoming beacon to the park, like, hi, I'm over here, I'm this beautiful green space. And I've heard people kind of discount that opinion about this beautiful green space and say, you know, you can go hug a tree someplace else. But as somebody who's lived in and around Scotia for 20 plus years, that corner is a hallmark to that park. That brings people in there. That's the first thing that people see when they're coming into Scotia. Imagine that entire view. There's like, I think 6 fully like gorgeous 100-year-old trees on that corner. Now there's going to be a giant fire building. But I mean, that aside, you're in the library, you're trying to enjoy quiet reading, you're trying to enjoy the beautiful new addition they built to enjoy activities. Now you've got in the middle of that. You've got that sound interfere. Do you like my fire engine?
That was a good, it was a good effort. It was a good effort because everybody understood what you were trying to do. So point taken.
Right. I mean, there's all these different ways to look at it, right? But that corner of the park, it's not just about trees and it's not just about, and for me, the safety issue. And that corner, that area of the park, especially that parking lot that is directly behind the space that is the proposed building spot, is 100% more utilized than the municipal lot in the middle of the village. I mean, if we have to pick, if it's like apples versus oranges, that spot is utilized far more than the municipal lot.
Okay, everybody here heard your comments. I think they're very valid comments. And we thank you for your input and thank you for listening in. So everybody here did hear those, and that is certainly her perspective on the value of the park and what it brings to the community. Absolutely. Can we all agree like 9 o'clock we can all go home?
Yeah. Perfect segue from what she just mentioned. And I have heard the comments about too much noise if that area is used. I really don't think that the softball games, the baseball games, the soccer games, Monkey Hill, and all that make it conducive to reading peacefully in the library. Okay, but the other part is that 1 acre, half acre, whatever you call it. She mentioned they're gorgeous trees. They're 100 years old. 5 years from now. They talked about it the other day, or they talked about it a couple of years ago when this project came up. It's been verified recently. Within 5 years, most of those trees will either have to be horribly trimmed or removed because they're too.
Is there an arborist that looks at all this? Is there a report for that? The trees on the street are
The trees are 100 years old. They're going to fall down. If you go look now, their branches fall.
Okay, all right, hang on. We're almost there.
There's branches all over the.
So if we go down that.
Those trees will not. So yes, we can have the spot wherever you want it, but please don't think that in 10 years, the view coming into the village is going to be this wonderful, pristine, gorgeous 120-year-old oak tree.
Well, we could plant a new tree. You don't have to build a building.
Okay.
I'm just
Thank you
saying.
for your comment. Let's hold it there. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how does the Board of Trustees decide the next step? The poll or whatever was done clearly shows there's more interest in the municipal lot. So is that what the referendum's gonna be on? How do they decide?
The village board is going to take the results of the survey online.
Okay.
And the comments that have been made in the 2 public forums. And I hate to say it, but I'm sure everybody has been at Facebook, even though I tell them not to be. So they're gonna take all of the comments that they've read on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is people do to communicate socially here. And they're gonna have to come up with what they think is the best solution for the village. Not that that's gonna be, that means that's what's gonna get built. But there's no sense in starting out with a project that nobody likes because it's not going to get approved. So they're trying to gather the survey information so that they start the project. Go back to that stupid little slide I had at the beginning. The early decisions are the important ones, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Sir?
Yes. Yes, sorry, you did, I didn't see you, I'm sorry.
Question regarding this
No.
survey that was
That's it,
posted.
right.
I believe it was on the village website, correct? I looked back through my emails and I didn't see anything come out from the village of Scotia saying, hey, here's the survey.
Okay.
So can you tell me why it wasn't pushed out and why we're not pushing it out again to all of the residents via the village of Scotia email?
And we looked for it and couldn't find it at one point.
Half the neighbors on my street are senior citizens, they don't even have computers.
Valid point as well. I'm
Okay,
just trying to
so-
figure out
so,
where the survey came
So
from.
the
because I
survey
didn't
is
know
just, to be honest with you, I'm just sharing past experience, okay? I have never had to do a survey online before. We do exit polls at all of these meetings, but obviously there's only a small sample. We did an exit poll last time, okay? And the answer was 70% for municipal lot, 15% for do nothing, 15% for the park, okay? But they said, why don't we get it, so we went from 30 people to 150 people by putting it online.
Putting it online is not the same as pushing it out to the entire village.
You're right, but the intent of this survey is not to survey everybody in the entire village to make this decision.
Why not? They don't gotta pay taxes.
They do, and that's the purpose of the vote.
Is the survey closed at this point?
No, the survey's still open.
Survey's open.
Can we request that they?
It's gonna stay open. Hang on one second, one question at a time, please.
There's a link on the bottom. We can certainly send out an email, but there's a link that says.
Is there an email that can be sent out to alert people that it's there? We will send an email out to alert everybody that it's there. I didn't know if that was it. I'm afraid, go for it. Yes,
Send a
ma'am.
letter to everybody in the village.
Excuse me?
I was sending a letter to everybody in the village, half the people in my street don't like to say, don't like to have computers, they don't even know that he was here tonight.
They get a water bill.
Yeah, they can mail water bills to us, or tax bills,
We
send a
can.
letter.
Yep, we,
4 times a
Okay.
year. you're getting Something for taxes 4 times.
okay. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, you said it twice tonight, so I have to say it again. Survey was 70% for the municipal lot, 15% for the park,
Mhm.
and 15% for neither, not do nothing.
Not, you're right.
Okay.
Correct.
So the neither could quite possibly, because I think we've all said it a million times, we all agree something needs to get done. So the neither is, we need to find a different location.
Could be a different location.
So 22 were originally picked, and in your presentation tonight, you said that 12 were further looked into.
Mhm.
And I think some people have also said it here tonight as well. If we had more information as to why of those 12 that were looked into further, these 2 were what we've decided on, then it might be like, you know what? These are unfortunately, we got to
The
pick
best option.
best of the
Or worst of the
two,
best.
whatever, all right,
Mhm.
best of the evil choices, whatever, okay?
Mhm.
That's, I think, where we're at right now.
Okay.
And I'm glad to hear that you had said that once it goes in referendum, you'll be able to do the design and take the 16,000 and do your best to chop it down to
Something less.
whatever. And I'm sorry, sir, I forget what your name was, but you had mentioned that you sat down and you did a survey and asked all the players what their needs were. I love my wife very, very much. If you sat down with her and did a survey with her about what her house should be like and what she needed versus what she really had to have, big world difference. Big world difference, okay? And so with that said, if we had a ballpark figure of something smaller, would that possibly then open up the 10 places that were shot down?
So just to be clear with you, all right, wants versus needs after 400 programs in the fire department the last 45 years. I hear what they say. I don't necessarily give them everything they want. They don't like it.
Right, and I understand that, and that's, I'm sure a part of the after fact.
No, it's a very big part of how I get the program, just to get a base to work from. Right? And I can tell you, having tried to do some layouts on whatever it was, 10 of those 22, they weren't even feasible to hold building. All right, so it wasn't worth wasting the village's time looking at it.
Right, that's why it got down to 12.
Yeah, and then up to 12, for various reasons.
Or the acquisition cost was not.
Expensive.
So I think again, I don't know for anybody else, but for me, here's the 12, here's the municipal lot, here's the park, here's the rest of them. No, because, maybe, but probably not the best option. Maybe then that would be a third place for us to vote.
Okay, thank you. 3 minutes, please. Yes, sir, and I'll get to you. But he hasn't asked one yet, please.
Should we get an answer on sending out some notification?
Yeah, are we gonna send, so?
Mail, email?
We can send an email out alerting people to the survey online on the village website, is that correct? Is that correct?
We can send it out to the people who are signed up for the email on the list. It's 1,200.
There's 1,200 emails associated with the village list right now?
The cost of sending out a mailing is really prohibitive for a separate thing like that. It doesn't, we've put
You got the money for the flyer.
messages in the store, yeah, but you don't want to spending more money.
That's not really, fair.
You can feel free to call and leave a message with any one of us and let your vote be heard and we will count it to. These guys, just so you know, these guys are getting peppered, village board members are getting peppered by, they can't go to the stewards anymore without somebody in their ear about what they think about this topic. Okay, so I think there is a lot of feedback that is happening through the process. People saying, well, it reminds me, you said nobody knew about the meeting. I was in West Sand Lake 12 years ago, and the lady said, I didn't even know about the meeting because I want you to send a mail out. She lived right next door, and there was a big sign outside the fire department, and she says, I don't look at that stupid sign. So I sent her an email every time we had a meeting, just as I want you to make sure that it's because you don't look at the sign out your window of your kitchen. Please look at your email. They're trying. Holy cow, if there was ever a place where we're not going to literally, mail one in and slide it under the door, I'm pretty sure it's the village of Scotia. Everybody knows what's going on, at least once. Well, don't tell me nobody in this village knows that the fire department is being discussed, please. So, yes, ma'am.
On both sides.
Yes.
So I.
You said you didn't tell them?
So I think we've talked about the needs and we've talked about choice A and B. I think
Yep.
through this process, like I said, I've obviously expressed, a lot of my concerns. I think one of my concerns is, the current administration and the availability of information. I think we just talked about that. So I feel like at this point in the process, what's being done is there's 2 options that people don't necessarily like. And I think that we need to look at some of those other sites. Like you said, you reevaluated this site with municipal lot and you now it's an option. I think at this point it's being pushed because there's people that aren't running again, that their party didn't endorse them to run again. And I think this is their last chance to be able to push something. And if we went back to the drawing board and looked at a couple more sites, it would push the timeline a few months if this isn't feasible within this administration's timeline. People that are running the. So, no.
Hang on, so hang on, we are not gonna have a village town hall meeting right now on the election. That is not why we're here.
I'm saying that I feel like these 2 options should be revisited.
Understood.
We should have another option.
Understood. I appreciate your comments. You've made it very clear. We understand your position. Thank you. And I like, she doesn't yell at me, which is nice. 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for not shooting me. Thank you. All right. Your microphone on.
What is